Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullahu khayra. Let's continue in the topic of the muhkam and the mutashabih. That's the explicit and the ambiguous. Reading from a classical text, which is Al-Itqaan fi Ulum al-Quran by Imam As-Siyutiyy. And we've reached where the author, that's Imam As-Siyutiyy, rahimahullah ta'ala, said, Fasl, section, Min al-mutashabihi ayatu sifat. Among the ambiguous is the verses about the attributes. The attributes, you know what that means. The attributes means the attributes that are relevant to this topic of ambiguities in the Quran, not all the attributes. He says, وَلِبْنِ اللَّبَّانِ فِيهَا تَصْنِيفٌ مُفْرَدٌ. Ibn al-Labban has a separate work on them. So I'm curious about his text. I'd like to see it. Who also has a work on that? Ibn al-Jawzi. He has Daf'u Shubahi Tashbih. Daf'u Shubahi Tashbih. This means, the name of this title is The Repulsion of the Fallacies of Anthropomorphism. So this is a book dedicated to explaining what is mutashabih from the Quran and the Sunnah concerning the attributes. Also, Al-Razi has a booklet. I ask Allah to enable me to take it so that we can go over it together. It's called Asasu Taqdees. Asas at-Taqdees. Asasu Taqdees. It's not a big book. And in it, he addresses the ambiguities in the Quran and the Sunnah pertaining to the attributes of Allah, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. This book in particular, Asasu Taqdees, enraged Ibn Taymiyyah. So Ibn Taymiyyah, in an outrageous fit, he authored a massive 10-volume book full of kufr to refute Al-Razi's book, Asasu Taqdees. That book is called Bayanu Talbis al-Jahmiyyah. Bayanu Talbis al-Jahmiyyah by Ibn Taymiyyah. It's supposed to be a refutation of Al-Razi's booklet. So, Nahu, as Suyutli says, they include, or such as, Ar-Rahman wa ala al-Arsh istawa. Ar-Rahman has istiwa over the Arsh. Istiwa. So let me ask you. That's the easy one, I think. What is the tafsir? You say, can I write that down? Yeah, okay, give me a second. Remind me. What is the tafsir of the istiwa here? What is the tafsir of the istiwa in this ayah? Or the ta'wil? What is the ta'wil of the istiwa in this ayah? Ar-Rahman wa ala al-Arsh istawa. Ar-Rahman has istiwa over the Arsh. This is an easy one. 5. Subdued, okay. Yeah, subdued, conquered, controlled, etc. Had power over. Conquered, yes. Dominated over. Ar-Rahman ala al-Arsh istawa. Ar-Rahman over the Arsh, dominated. We'll come back to talk more about this. First, As-Suyutli just wants to list a few as examples of what are verses about the attributes. Ambiguous verses about the attributes. Here's one. I want to number them. See, what did he say here? كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه له الحكم وإليه ترجعون. Yes, we read it. We read that part. In my copy, it's not there. له الحكم وإليه ترجعون. But we read it like that, and I had to add it. Everything will perish, or everything yani perishes, except his wajh. That's the relevant part. That's the actual shahid, the actual reference, the citation. So everything will perish except his wajh. Lahul hukum. Ruling is his. Wa ilayhi turja'un. And for his judgment shall you return to life. Okay, I see someone anticipated my question. My next question is going to be, okay, this ayah, what's the meaning of wajh? But they put it in Arabic, so who's going to tell me in English? Kullu shay'in, kullu shay'in halikun illa wajha. What's the meaning of wajh here? Dominion. His dominion. Or what? What else? What's another way to interpret the ayah? Why? What is done for the sake of Allah? Correct. That's Al-Bukhari's interpretation. Al-Bukhari is from the Salaf. He gave an explicit, determined alternative interpretation here. And the Wahhabi mistranslation done by this man called Muhsin Khan leaves this part blank unless they've updated the work. The last I knew, he didn't even translate what Al-Bukhari said there. His goal is to translate Sahih Al-Bukhari, and when Al-Bukhari gave a ta'wil and explained wajh by other than its apparent meaning, he just skipped it altogether. He didn't misinterpret it. He didn't mistranslate the words of Al-Bukhari there. He just literally did not translate anything there and just went to the next thing. And the Wahhabis have no problem with this at all whatsoever. Okay, that's another one he cited. What else? وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ. And the wajh of your Lord remains. What does wajh mean here? 5, 4, 3, 2. The self, correct. Yani, your Lord himself remains is the meaning. The wajh of your Lord remains means your Lord himself remains. Correct. Now about this ayah. وَلِتُصْنَعَ عَلَى عَيْنِي. There's 3 ayns there. If you want an ayah to practice your ayns. وَلِتُصْنَعَ عَلَى عَيْنِي. And that you may be brought up under my ayn. What's the meaning of ayn here in this ayah? What is the ta'wil of ayn in this ayah? 5. بِحِفْظِهِ, protection, correct. And that you be brought up under my protection. And Here's another ayah. As-Siyutiyy cites this one. Yadullahi fawqa aydihim. The yad of Allah is over their hands. The yad of Allah is over their hands. What does this ayah mean? Who remembers the meaning of this one? Ahdullah, the covenant of Allah. The covenant of Allah. Yani they made a pact, like a promise to Allah Ta'ala. When they put their hands over each other's hands, this was a covenant, a pact that they made to support the Messenger of Allah. And Allah accepts their covenant, their pact. And so Allah says, Yadullahi fawqa aydihim. The yad of Allah is over their hands. Allah accepts their covenant. And this one here is written with two alifs, should be written with one alif. وَالسَّمَاوَاتُ مَطْوِيَّاتٌ بِيَمِينِهِ. The heavens shall be folded by his yameen. This one we'll review. What does yameen mean here? So, As-Siyutiyy started us off with 6 ayat. Yani, that's just for starters. There's many, many, many. Then he goes on to talk about tafweed, vague interpretation. So there's going to be a little bit of repetition here from what was already stated. So As-Siyutiyy rahimahullah, he says, وَجُمْهُورُ أَهْلِ السُّنَّةِ مِنْهُمُ السَّلَفُ وَأَهْلُ الْحَدِيثِ على الإيمان بها وتفويض معناها المراد منها إلى الله تعالى ولا نفسرها مع تنزيهنا له عن حقيقتها. So he says, rahimahullah, the majority of Ahlul Sunnah, among them the Salaf and the people of Hadith, the majority of Ahlul Sunnah hold fast or hold to faith in these verses, believing in them. Yani these verses and the likes of these verses. The majority of Ahlul Sunnah hold to the obligation of believing in these verses and co-signing their meant meanings to Allah, leaving what they mean to Allah. That's called tafweed. That's the word As-Siyutiyy used there, tafweed. This is what our Shaykh usually calls ta'wil ijmali. Ta'wil ijmali, meaning vague interpretation. Vague interpretation means not taking it by its apparent meaning, yet not determining exactly what it means. As As-Siyutiyy says, the majority of the people of the prophetic way go that way. They believe in these verses without determining their meanings. But you must be mindful about the way he worded this. He said, in explaining the position of the majority, وَلَا نُفَسِّرُهَا مَعَ تَنْزِيهِنَا لَهُ عَنْ حَقِيقَتِهَا. We do not interpret them. What does that mean? When you see Ahlul Sunnah, not the anthropomorphists saying this, when the people of the prophetic way say this, we don't interpret them. What do the people of the prophetic way mean? They mean we do tafweed, we co-sign your meanings to Allah. we leave their meanings to Allah without taking them literal, though, without taking them literally. Why I am making a deal out of this? Because وَلَا نُفَسِّرُهَا, we don't interpret them. This has a meaning, and they do interpret them, but they interpret them vaguely. When they say we don't interpret them, they mean our interpretation of those ambiguities is a vague one. Since we don't determine or specify exactly what it means in other words, since we don't choose other words to explain what it means, we sometimes call that not interpreting. Because we're not going to say to you what it does mean. What we're going to rather do is say to you what it does not mean. We're going to tell you what it does not mean. We're not going to tell you what it does mean. That's our vague interpretation. We're going to tell you what it does not mean, and that's right here. مَعَ تَنْزِيهِنَا لَهُ عَنْ حَقِيقَتِهَا. While we exalt him from their literal meanings. That's us telling you what they don't mean. Yani, we go back up. Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh Istawa does not mean Ar-Rahman sat on the throne. Everything shall perish except his wajh does not mean except his face. And walitusna'a ala aini does not mean on my eye. And yadullahi fawqa aydihim does not mean the hand of Allah is over their hands. Then, and wasamawatu matwiyatun biyaminih. The sixth one, I said I need to review what it means. But I can do the tafweeds for this ayah, and I can just go like those ones go and say, Allah knows what this means. I'll be safe. And for sure, it does not mean that he balls up the heavens with the right hand. That's what the Wahhabis believe it means. The Wahhabis believe that Allah crumbles the heavens in his right hand, balls it up like a piece of paper, balled up. Like you ball up a piece of paper. So then what? They believe that Allah has a huge hand, a hand that can ball up all the seven heavens. It does not mean that. What does it mean? Allahu a'lam. Allah knows. I leave its interpretation to Allah. Those ones, they say we don't interpret it. The heavens will be folded by his yameen. They say we don't interpret it. Other than telling you what it doesn't mean. As-Siyutiyy says, أخرج أبو القاسم اللالكائي في السنن عن طريق قرة بن خالد عن الحسن عن أمه عن أم سلمة في قوله تعالى الرحمن على العرش استوى. قالت الكيف غير معقول والاستواء غير مجهول والإقرار به من الإيمان والجحود به كفر. As-Siyutiyy says, Abu al-Qasim al-Lalaka'i, I know his name I memorized his name for Kesra there, al-Lalika'i. Let me see something here. Okay, we'll check the lam on his name. Al-Lalaka'i, I know it as al-Lalika'i. That's my memorization of his name. Al-Lalika'i. We'll double check it, insha'Allah ta'ala. Abu al-Qasim, I'm going to, though, say it as I remember it. Al-Lalika'i. He produced he produced in his book As-Sunan via the route of Qurrah ibn Khalid, yani through the route of Qurrah ibn Khalid from Al-Hasan. Who's Al-Hasan? You know who's Al-Hasan? When the scholars say Al-Hasan. Sorry? Al-Bisri, correct. From the route of Al-Hasan Al-Bisri, from his mother, from Salama, the Prophet's wife. She was a great scholar. Regarding the saying of Allah, exalted is He, Ar-Rahman ala al-Arsh istawa. Ar-Rahman has istiwa over the Arsh. What does she say about this ayah? She said about this ayah, how is irrational? Al-kayfu ghayru ma'qul. Subhanallah. In this subject, you need to know the statements that the anthropomorphists say, that we also say the same words, but how they have a different meaning than we have behind the same words. Like here, they will say, don't you know, Salama said, Al-kayfu ghayru ma'qul. Kayf is not rational. So you say to them, yeah, you're the one who says Allah and we don't know how He is. You're going to say, yeah, we don't know how He is. And you say to him, so you don't know what she is saying. She says, how is irrational? She's not saying we don't know how He is. She is saying there is a how, even if we don't know, is itself irrational. You are saying what she deems to be irrational. She's not saying what you say. You say we don't know how He is. Look, Salama said, al-kayfu ghayru ma'qul. How is irrational? Tell him, that doesn't mean the same thing. It just means the same thing in your own mind. She's telling you how doesn't even make sense. Not we don't know how. So she said, Al-kayfu ghayru ma'qul. How is irrational. Don't say we don't know how. Say there is no how. Wal-istiwa'u ghayru majhul. And istiwa is not unknown. Is not unknown. What does that mean? This means it came in the Quran. We know that it is an attribute of Allah. وَالْإِقْرَارُ بِهِ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ. Affirming it is from the faith, a part of faith. Yani, even if you don't know what it means, believe in the ambiguity. That's part of faith. It's a test for the slaves of Allah. وَالْجُحُودُ بِهِ كُفْرٌ. And denying it is disbelief, blasphemy. Why? Because denying it will be denying what's in the Quran. So that's blasphemy. Now, I'm not going over the footnotes. We're going to come back, inshallah, read this whole thing from the top and catch all the footnotes. I might read a footnote here or there, though. وأخرج أيضا عن ربيعة بن أبي عبد الرحمن. He, Al-Lalikai, also produced from Rabi'ah ibn Abi Abd al-Rahman أنه سئل عن قوله الرحمن على العرش استوى, that he was asked about God saying الرحمن على العرش استوى, Ar-Rahman has istiwa over the arsh. فقال, so he said, الاستواء غير مجهول والكيف غير معقول. Istiwa is not unknown. Yani, it is documented in the Quran. And how is not rational. That doesn't mean we don't know how. It means there is no how. وَمِنَ اللَّهِ الرِّسَالَةِ وَعَلَى الرَّسُولِ الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ وَعَلَيْنَا التَّصْدِيقُ. He said, and from Allah is the message. The message came from God. So then the message is as it is. God sends the message according to the wording that He will. The message from Allah is the message. The message itself is from God Almighty. وَعَلَى الرَّسُولِ الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ. And upon the messenger, yani the messenger's duty is merely clear conveyance. The messenger's duty is merely clear conveyance. You don't believe, it's not going to harm the messenger. وَعَلَيْنَا التَّصْدِيقُ. And upon us is affirmation. That's our duty. Our duty is to believe in it. God revealed it, so it's going to come as He willed. He wasn't obligated to word it one way or another way. It's not our business to critique the wording of the revelation. The messenger, his job is to convey it to us, and he did his job. Whoever doesn't believe doesn't take away from the messenger. And our job is to believe in what the messenger conveyed, alayhi salatu wassalam, even with a vague interpretation. Even with a vague interpretation. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, He allowed us to take a position of vague interpretation and still have valid creed. وَأَخْرَجَ أَيْضًا عَنْ مَالِكٍ. He also produced from Malik, it's Al-Itqaan, أَنَّهُ سُئِلَ عَنِ الْآيَةِ, that he was asked about the verse, the same verse we're talking about. And As-Siyutiyy here, his real goal right now at this moment is not to talk about Istiwa, even though he is producing citation after citation about Istiwa. Rather, what's supposed to be his goal now, according to the order of his information, is to give examples of those who do not interpret it literally, but they also do not determine what it means. They give a vague interpretation. So it's not his point right at this moment to discuss istiwa per se. His point right at this moment is to discuss scholars giving vague interpretations. He's going to come back and talk about istiwa. So he said, As-Siyutiyy, that is, still citing Al-Itqaan. وَأَخْرَجَ أَيْضًا عَنْ مَالِكٍ. He, Al-Itqaan, also produced from Malik, أَنَّهُ سُئِلَ عَنِ الْآيَةِ, that he was asked about the verse in question, Ar-Rahman وَعَلَى الْعَرْشِ اسْتَوَى, فَقَالَ الْكَيْفُ غَيْرُ مَعْقُولٍ وَالِاسْتِوَاءُ غَيْرُ مَجْهُولٍ وَالْإِيمَانُ بِهِ وَاجِبٌ وَالسُّؤَالُ عَنْهُ بِدْعَةٌ. He said, how is irrational. So don't say how. Don't say we don't know how Allah is. How is not rational. And istiwa is not unknown because it came in the Quran. Faith in it is obligatory, even if you give it a vague interpretation. And questioning it is heresy. Yani, questioning it in the way that the person he's talking to was doing. This questioning here, this Malik's statement, this statement of Malik is in response to someone. He was telling the person that he was answering. وَالسُّؤَالُ عَنْهُ بِدْعَةٌ. Questioning it is heresy. And then he told him, and I see you as a heretic. Get him out of here. And he had the man thrown out. وأخرج البيهقي عنه أنه قال. And Al-Bayhaqi produced from him, from Malik, that he said, هو كما وصف نفسه ولا يقال كيف. That Malik said, he is as he described himself. So he's attributed with Istiwa because he said so. And it is not said how. وَكَيْفَ عَنْهُ مَرْفُوعٌ. How is inapplicable to him. How is raised, meaning inapplicable, doesn't go there. وأخرج اللالكائي عن محمد بن الحسن أنه قال. Al-Lalikai produced from Muhammad ibn al-Hasan. So the only Muhammad ibn al-Hasan I know is Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani, the Hanafi. So Allah knows best. That he said, اتفق الفقهاء كلهم من المشرق إلى المغرب على الإيمان بالصفات من غير تفسير ولا تشبيه. He said all the jurists from east to west, have agreed on believing in the attributes without interpretation, nor anthropomorphism. Without interpretation and without anthropomorphism. Okay. This statement, also some scholars say this statement in different ways. And our Sheikh does not agree with that, the way it's stated. And he does not agree to its absoluteness. It's too open. Here, Al-Lalikai cites Muhammad ibn al-Hasan saying something similar to what Sheikh At-Tilimsani said. What did Sheikh At-Tilimsani say? He said the school of the Salaf is non-specification, Adamu ta'yin, yani not determining what it means. See how open that is. He didn't say most of. He said it in a way that's open. It's general. He said the school of the Salaf is the non-specification. Yani, he means tafweed, forwarding its meaning to Allah, not determining exact other words to explain it. Out of fear of deviation, ilhad. So that's what he said. He said the madhab of the Salaf is not specifying out of fear of deviation, or out of fear of ilhad, yani blasphemy. So that's his saying. So let's look at Muhammad ibn al-Hasan's statement. He said all the jurists from east to west. So that means he didn't leave out any of them. Have agreed on believing in the attributes without interpretation. Tafweed. He's saying all jurists from east to west make tafweed. Vague interpretations. That's not true. Sheikh At-Tilimsani said, the school of the Salaf is not specifying the meaning out of fear of blasphemy. That's too broad. So the Sheikh responds to this. The Sheikh said, the statement of Ibn Tilimsani that the school of the Salaf is non-specification, perhaps he intends by this the lack of frequency of that. relative to the later scholars, in comparison to the later scholars. I don't think we need this here. Perhaps he means, the Sheikh says, when he says the madhab of the Salaf is not to specify. Maybe he means they didn't do it a lot in comparison to the later scholars. The Sheikh said, otherwise, it has been established from the early scholars just as it has been established from the later scholars. Yani confirmed, let's say, confirmed. Wow. It has been confirmed about the early scholars just as it has been confirmed about the later scholars. Yes, the later scholars did it more. Yes, the early scholars did it less, much less. Yes, some scholars, they say a blanket statement. We don't interpret. All this needs exactification. It has been confirmed about the early scholars, yani detailed alternative interpretation has been confirmed about the early scholars just as it has been confirmed about the later scholars. So whoever denies ta'wil from the early scholars is mistaken. This is what the Sheikh said. This is still the Sheikh's quote. All of this. All of this is the Sheikh's quote. He said, whoever denies ta'wil, yani specific ta'wil, not vague one, from the early scholars is mistaken because it is established from Ahmed with an authentic chain of transmission. Likewise, it is established from Imam Al-Bukhari and others. So one more look here. What did Muhammad ibn al-Hasan say? According to Al-Lalika'i's reporting, all of the jurists, اتفق الفقهاء كلهم. Yani, even in Arabic is more emphatic. The jurists have agreed entirely. The jurists have agreed entirely. I'm going to put it that way. That this is what he is saying. That's how to translate his statement. And then, from east to west, I'll squeeze it in here. The jurists from east to west have agreed entirely on believing in the attributes without interpretation, nor anthropomorphism. So the statement is too broad to be acceptable according to it, the way it's worded. And what he must mean in order for this not to be a pure blunder, what he must mean is that the early ones didn't do it frequently. The jurists from east to west have agreed entirely on believing in the attributes without interpretation, meaning they didn't interpret them frequently. We got one more quote here before we get to the next title that we'll save for next week. Still talking about tafwid, forwarding the meaning to Allah and settling with a vague interpretation. As-Siyutiyy said, وَقَالَ التِّرْمِذِيُّ وقال الترمذي في الكلام على حديث الرؤية. At-Tirmidhi said in his commentary on the hadith of the ru'yah, seeing God. So, take note that here, As-Siyutiyy selected the quote of At-Tirmidhi when At-Tirmidhi was commenting on a hadith, not an ayah. It's okay, I already told you. The hadiths in this subject have the same judgment. But I just want to remind you, what's this book of As-Siyutiyy? Al-Itqaan fi Ulum al-Quran. It's a book about Quranic sciences, not about hadith. And that's why until now he has not talked about the hadiths, the mutashabi hadiths. All he's talking about is the Quran. But that's fine. Let's see, what did At-Tirmidhi say? He said, Al-madhhabu fi hadha inda ahli al-ilm min al-a'immah مثل سفيان الثوري ومالك وابن المبارك وابن عيينة ووكيع وغيرهم أنهم قالوا نروي هذه الأحاديث كما جاءت ونؤمن بها ولا يقال كيف ولا نفسر ولا نتوهم. At-Tirmidhi said in his commentary on the hadith of the ru'yah, seeing God, the way, the madhab, regarding this topic, according to the people of knowledge amongst the imams, such as Sufyan al-Thawri, Malik, Ibn al-Mubarak, Ibn Uyaynah, Waqi' and others, is that they said, here's their famous quote, نروي هذه الأحاديث كما جاءت ونؤمن بها. And this is a version of that statement of theirs. We narrate these hadiths as they have come, and we believe in them. Didn't I just tell you a few minutes ago? Be mindful of the statements that the Wahhabis say that we say too. There are statements that the Wahhabis clip, and they say them exactly like we say them, but they have a different meaning behind it. Like this one. Amirruha kama ja'at bila kayf. Pass them on as they have come, without a how. Yes, this is what they said. We narrate these hadiths as they have come. We believe in them. Yes, yani, even with a vague interpretation. We know what they don't mean. That's what the Wahhabi doesn't know. The Wahhabi doesn't know what it doesn't mean. وَلَا يُقَالُ كَيْفٍ. And it is not said how. وَلَا نُفَسِّرْ. And we do not interpret. What does that mean? It means we don't give specific alternative interpretation. We prefer a vague interpretation. وَلَا نَتَوَهَّمْ. And we do not imagine. So same thing. We don't interpret. Yeah, that's those who practice tafweel and suffice with the vague interpretations. When the Wahhabi cites these true words, Amirruha kama ja'at bila kayf, pass them on as they have come without a how, we have to clarify for them. They said without a how, they didn't say we don't know how. For the Wahhabi, without a how means we don't know how. Yani, for the Wahhabi, when they said without a how means don't ask how. We don't know it. We don't know how. And for a Wahhabi, without a how from these old scholars does not mean the negation of how. For the Wahhabis, when the scholars said without a how means we don't know how. So that's their misinterpretation. Wallahu a'lam. Allah knows best.
Assalamu alaikum, shit.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
You write that thing, that the book down, you talking about
Yes.
Ibn Yeah.
Yeah. The book of Ibn Taymiyyah is called Bayan Talbis Al-Jahmiyyah. Bayanu Talbis Al-Jahmiyyah.
Who
It
we?
means, the title means clarification of the trickery of the Jahmites. He means the Ash'aris.
Who was he trying to refute again?
He was refuting a scholar called Al-Razi, who has a book called Asas at-Taqdis. Asas at-Taqdis. So Ibn Taymiyyah made his book Bayanu Talbis. He authored Bayanu Talbis as a refutation to Asas at-Taqdis.
Thank you, Shaykh. Barakallah.
I mean, wafikum. And this is why the Wahhabis call the Ash'aris Jahmiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah called them Jahmiyyah. Question: how can a person not slack for their hereafter and stop being as fearful as before if they see the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? As it was said, the person will die as a Muslim if they saw his hair. The question is not really clear for me because you said, how can a person not slack for their hereafter? That's clear. And I guess you are saying, and not stop being as fearful as before. I think that's what you mean to say. How can a person, okay, yeah. How can a person not stop being as fearful as he was before he sees the hair of the Prophet? Well, why it has to be the condition of seeing the hair of the Prophet? That's what makes the question more difficult. Why is that part a condition of the of not slacking and not stopping being as fearful as before? As if the question is something else. He said, as it was said, the person will die as a Muslim as if they saw his hair. So the question is not really, really clear for me, to be honest with you. You can follow up if you want to. Now, if I apply my mind, I can maybe make some interpretation of this question, but I would rather you would clarify your own question. But whether they saw the hair of the Prophet or they didn't see the hair of the Prophet, that's what's not clear for me. Isn't the question relevant whether they saw the hair of the Prophet or not? So, you want to. So, I mean, usually the person fears going to hellfire, but if they see the hair, they think they will die as Muslim. Oh, okay. Then I really did not understand your question. Okay, now I understand your question. Well, I would say, let's say that person was talking to me in my face. I would say to him, don't be silly. Why are you going to be silly? Now you saw the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so you're going to go and sin and say, I saw the Prophet's hair, I'll go to paradise. Now I'm not even concerned about being a better Muslim anymore. Don't be silly. You are being silly. That's what I'd say. I would say to that person, should I knock on your head with my knuckles? Maybe this will help you. Do you want me to? I'll knock on your head with my knuckles. Maybe this will help you. Someone else might have a different answer, though. For you. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Yani, that's a serious answer for you. That's a serious answer. Because I'm saying to you very seriously here. Maybe it sounds like I was joking, but I'm very serious here. Why a person would be trying to fear Allah and be concerned about his afterlife, then he would see the hair of the Prophet and then say, khalas, I will misbehave now. So silly. It's very silly. So I'll tell him, stop being silly. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.